항상 기부 침비게 람 rim비게 로 냠는 제발라 하는 아주게 태바 침비게 취 냠는 제발라 가르고 쓰는 꼴로 자주심게 심베도네 하는 아주게 저가를 두비나 하는 자주심게 심베도네 고주고 그래 제사디 장 아주게라 당보 그러라야 심제 담지게도나 선여고만 토벌쇼 세비게 자주심디 nengyulake 호레스 아니디게 호레스 자다 제주심디 귤레게 발라 아니 가르스 기고레라나 당보 가르스 냠는지니 기고레라나 나가 좀 균리맹아 균유고네 아니 가서 로창제 안제주심디 기고레스 자다 균리맹아 균유고네 로창네 제주심 기발라 당보 가르스 당보 냠는지고 가네 수고레라나 나가 저게 심전 탐제 하나 당념금 고래서 제가 심전 딩알에 야가래 디딩알에 두가래서 가야 매바 차상 찍부지가 인생비게 아니 당념금 고래서 아니 내 당념금이야 안 당보 가네 고주그래라네 안 당보 안 소속이 잠네 여기 념도 위에 되겠다 미사이나라 소속이 여관에 념도 뒤에 되겠 대소 심전 대소래 당념금 대솔라 당용금 세회제라 되네 랑기 여거 타고기 안에 심전답제 당용금 되네 랑기 룸비 나로 심전되게 당용금 되네 마저 점링 예합 되네 심전 탐제 야와이다 둔로 아니 미라 차상 안 지바레스 누시노 공고레세 아니 그 생각도 디콤야 거직 하도시네 시 당용고 곰나디시 살아와.
Yeah, good evening. We were looking now at the trainings that are in accordance with the practitioner of greatest capacity, the trainings of the Mahayana Dharma. And in order to become a practitioner of the actual Mahayana Dharma, in other words, become a bodhisattva, one needs to generate bodhicitta in one's mind. And bodhicitta is the determination to become a Buddha so as to be able to lead all beings to a state freed of suffering. So therefore, in the trainings of an aspirant bodhisattva starts with the generation of bodhicitta, the various steps to generate bodhicitta, and there are two methods here. There's the 6 cause and 1 effect method, and that of equalizing and exchanging self for others. But both of these have as a prerequisite the training in impartiality, and that's what we looked at last week. So impartiality is overcoming the sense that we have of feeling affection for some, a feeling of closeness towards some, a feeling of indifference for many, and distance towards the rest. So this we need to overcome, and the way to do so is to start with the group that we spend most time with. Usually it's our family that we live with, and then as we develop a feeling of closeness towards all of them, without any sense of distance at all, we then expand it out to those that we still have regular contact with, but not as much as our family, perhaps our work colleagues. And then when we have success in that training, we expand it out further to perhaps our community, thereafter to the nation, thereafter to all humans, and lastly, all sentient beings. So last week, we looked at, in detail, how to train in impartiality.
아디링 아주 된마셔야 되나? 아니 심전 탐제 랑게 파마제 뇽와셔야 돼. 다 당보 균제 맹아 균시도 당보 유주도 고소해도 당보다 심전 탐제 랑게 마셔봐서 제거래 마셔봐지. 마제 뇽와디 안 하고고 제 고미에 직세. 디제라 아니 심전 탐제 랑이야 진체 보이마 그린체 보이마 고미에 되지. 이베되죠. 손바데라 아니 심전 탐제다 랑을 진체 보인다 랑기파 아니 심전이야 펜버주 진년 조긴 심베게 고미에 되지. 다 시바데라 아니 심전 탐제라 대화데 되나 심베게 잠바 고미에 되래. 되네 나바디 아니 심전 탐제 동하다 자와 쇼 심베게 니죠 고미에 되래. 다 두바디 다 심전 탐제 대화다 대위 규된 덴바디야 니지기 심지 담지 동아다 동아유 규나 제바자데 메지기 세베게다 라삼 남다 세디게디 자야들다 두바 차고레 지난다 디제라 아니 심지 담지 동안 자다 디기도에 내지기 라요도 근데 다들 알아라 제기 누가 가야면 대장이 산지고 봐마도다 탑민도 제산 이 산지고 봐도 버쇼 셈비기다 지긴스베 도버쇼스 장주 셈게디다 제부 장주 셈의 작용을 제산 유주 공비기 제부 장주 셈 냠len제 공비아디 어디 참된 리고로와 두스젠들이 디네자 당한서다데 유주기나 당보 셈전 탐제랑게 마르시아 바세디 다디고시 쉬야데
The training in impartiality that we looked at last week is the indispensable prerequisite that one needs to cultivate within oneself before one can successfully train in the cultivation of bodhicitta. So we looked at that last week, and hopefully you have now some experience of that through your daily meditation practice. Now we're going to come to the actual cultivation of the 6 causes that lead to the result of bodhicitta. Tonight we'll start looking with the first of the 6 causes, that recognizing that throughout beginningless lifetimes we've had close and intimate relationships with all beings. In particular, we've had the relationship of parent and child with all beings. So this is the first of the 6 causes. This is followed then by recognizing the kindness that sentient beings have shown us, and thereafter the third cause is the wish to repay that kindness. And in dependence on the cultivation of these 3 prior causes, one naturally gives rise to the thought, how to repay that kindness? What is it that beings want? And here we generate the mind of love with the aspiration, may all beings have happiness. Lasting, stable happiness, may all beings have the causes that lead to happiness. And in dependence on the cultivation of love, one cultivates then compassion. Compassion being the 5th cause, where in order for beings to experience lasting, stable happiness, the aspiration of love, comes the aspiration of compassion. May all beings be freed of suffering. May all beings be freed of the causes that would otherwise lead to suffering. And in the dependence on generating powerful love and compassion, one takes this aspiration of may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, may all beings be freed of suffering and the causes that would lead to suffering. We take that aspiration and develop it into the strength where we take it as our personal responsibility, ensuring that all beings do achieve such a state. And this taking of personal responsibility is the generation of the altruistic attitude. And this is the 6th of the 6 causes that lead to the result of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta then results in dependence on these prior 6 causes. Bodhicitta then is where, in order to fulfill this aspiration of leading me, myself, leading each and every sentient being to a state freed of suffering, I have to become a Buddha, the most skilled of guides. And it's these 2 thoughts, the determination to lead all beings to a state freed of suffering, and to do so to become a Buddha, that is the mind of bodhicitta. So tonight then, we're going to start looking at the first of these 6 causes, the close and intimate relationship we have with all sentient beings.
simjen namje rangi maji nyongwa ane samdang gore sorda da dosina kom gore secheba samdang gore sgurwa jisadi di simjen namje rangi maji nyongwa de samdang go bi gyumjen ro shikare labna simjen namje rangi maji nyongwa de samdang wa na ane simjen namje rale jinche bo yin ba de samlo di tanya le lela yong gore jisa dini za simdang bo simjen namje rangi maji nyongwa de samdang gore sa de gyumjen di shi gore.
The purpose for training in this first of the 6 steps is because, to the extent that one successfully cultivates the recognition that we have a close and personal relationship with all beings. In this life we have parents, in each and every life we've had parents. In dependence on recognizing this relationship that we do share with beings, in dependence on that, we'll give rise much more easily to the recognition of their kindness. So therefore, the second step, for that to come about in a manner that is powerful and has a transformative impact on oneself, that depends on the successful prior cultivation of the recognition of the relationship that we have of mother and child with all beings.
지사다 심전 담제 랑게 마제 뇽와데 마곰바제 당보네 심전 담제 진첸보 이모곰네 디기로 왔어. 지기 니게 삼릉구와 지사 인지미지 심전 담제 당보 마제 뇽와 전국민도와 마곰바제 다 심전 담제 진첸보 이모곰네 디기로 왔나. 나디네 곰나 디기로 와. 이네 심전 담제 랑게 진첸보 임바데 삼로 야고시게 와라. 안에 심전의 랑게 마지 용화의 삼다제 아니도 진짜 진짜 보고 봐네 심전의 진짜 모임바다 하고야 돼 레라용 거래 자 심전의 랑게 마지 용화 맞은 바제 아니 심전의 진 당보거나 심전의 진짜 모임바 삼다와네 디 삼로데 자야래 또 깔레카용 거다 가지 깔레카용 거로 진짜 디네 인자 고 당몽하는 저가서 냠는 제발라 그리네 레라하디네 고 자하디 레라 고 깨레라와다 둠데디 나 고고르바 디네 인자 당보 심전지랑 마제 요하다 조금 고래 디 제라 안 심전님 진체와 곰고래선 디네 곰바이나 진체보래서 베삼로디 깨레라 용고래서 그래
If one wonders, is this first of the 6 causes indispensable? If I were to skip this, could I not immediately go to the second step, reflecting on the kindness that all sentient beings have shown us? And yes, this is true. One can actually skip this first of the 6 causes. However, if one does train in this correct sequence and cultivates this clear and unmistaken recognition that each and every sentient being that we perceive and all the many that we don't, that we do actually have have had a very close relationship with them at times, then if one does train well in this first step, the arisal of the second step, the recognition of their kindness, will come about so much more easily and will have a far greater strength, or is much more likely to have a far greater strength. So whilst it is possible, therefore, to skip the first step and go straight to the second, it will assist one's training greatly if one does adopt this first method, this first step of coming to recognize the relationship we have with others. It will thereby be much easier to give rise to a powerful and transformative understanding of the second step, that of the kindness that others have shown us.
다나 심장심제 랑게 마제 뇽와디 나 안에 간에 삼당고래 랍나 당아주 심장 남제 랑게 마제 뇽와디 삼다데 아주다 개왕아마다 치마 케링게 다 랭안이나 아주기 심장심제 랑게 마제 뇽와디 삼다요와 대 개왕아마다 치마 케멜렌 바이나 심장심제 랑게 마제 뇽와디 삼다요 말
That then in brief was the need for the meditation on the first step. But now to actually engage in this meditation, for those who struggle to accept reincarnation, for those for whom that this one life is the one and only life, this meditation is very difficult. Without accepting that there are past lives as well as future lives, it's very difficult to engage in this meditation.
지나다 심전 탐제랑게 마제 용어요 아마제 용어시다리 라용도 다 심전라 장매방 밀리아 동규를 먹고요 디나진다 심전 바도 매바지 타이 대수 차사랑게 마제 간지 용어래 삼다와이나 나 차사랑게 디 심전 딩에 마제 용어요 말해서 베게 심전직 돼요 여러분 디지 돼요 말해지래 가르rellam나 디 심제딩이 마지 뇽르베스네 디 뇽 마지 뇽요 말에세네 라지요 말에지네 그래서 심전 차사랑게 마지 뇽와 샤다레마도 딩이 마지 뇽요 말 딩이 마지 뇽요레스네 캬브라치요 여르베스네 디 캬브라치요 말에스 지사다 심전람제 마지 뇽와데 가르치고 그래서 김전 가르rellam나 다 소소라랑 깨와디 빼 깨와 망부 렌여로 당은 깨와시 호시 렌여로 받아 깨와 렌여도 당은 가브레라 밀리 깨요라 가브레라 둔로라 깨요라 가브레라 녀와 깨요라 가브레라는 지게 냐라 깨요라 심전다 말 깨요로 받아 제가 디네상 심전 그디나 아마데 심전 지부 세디가 아마데 그디나 가지고 좀 로마를 아마 자기 말아 제가 깨도 저게 깨요도 답에 가신 디네 깨요도 아마 지레 깨요도 가블라 디네 가서 아마지 구고를 제가 디네상 나 깨왕 아마게 직나도 깨발래요래 디가마 깨발래요 디가마 깨데 뭐 깨와 제가 깨발래 양아도 타야 말스 깨와니 말렘바들 타메 완장 심전 지지래 아니 깨발렘바 장야 차되고 인자 딜리 깨와 말렘바레서 간주기 시토야요 말 제가 디네자 심전 담제랑게 마치 용화디 용화샤다 레샤 선배디네 삼다 레제
Here, in this meditation, we're striving to cultivate the clear recognition that each and every being that we perceive, as well as all those we don't, has been our mother in a past life, if not in several past lives. And to do this, to come to this recognition, we need to reflect on the limitless life forms, as well as lifetimes lifetimes that one has taken. When it takes those two features of the wide variety of life forms, so not just human life, but a wide variety of life forms, as well as the inconceivable number of lifetimes that each of us have had since beginningless time, then taking those two factors and recognizing that one requires a mother to be born from, then we can start to see how it is certain that we have to have had these relationships with all beings. And what we cannot do is point to any single sentient being and say, this particular being has not been my mother. This is impossible to say. So to come to this recognition, we think about the inconceivable variety of lifespans, life forms, and the uncountable lifespans that we have had, and that these require mother. And therefore, we cannot point to any single being and say, with any basis, that this particular being we don't have such a relationship with.
지상 당아주기 당아주기 마제니엘에 아니엘에 아주 끼워주어 봐다. 끼왕아마시어 봐다. 아주 가리네 미네 베네 미치임베나 아주 끼왕아마디 미치임베나 지상 끼왕아마기 미디임베나 디게 아마디 다다 아마디 말봐. 지상 다데 아마디 아주 끼왕아마 마신이엘에 다데 아마디 끼사라와 끼리르 제상 아주 아마 차요 말아 부구로 진미 샤나 끼리르 제상 아주 끼왕 아마디 아마 샤다 치어다 다 데네 신에 다데 아마디를 끼와린 거로 아주 끼와린 바로와 제상 체디게 아마디 디 아마 마차니엘은 아주 끼왕 아마디 아주 끼왕 아마 미시네 미치어라 제상 디게 아마 치어와 제상 끼왕 아마디나 체디게 아마니디 미카하레도와 어디나시 깨왕아마게 nga마들야 맞지 베네 캥구루시 깨깨바이나 지상 깨왕아마게 아마디 nga주게 딩아마가 깨왕아마 심전 지깨베 아마디 말와 제가 아마디 카레도 지도 누야제네 맞지 깨게 아마카가 차고 제가 심전 되니 제 누구 집에는 맞지 깨왕아마를 타요 말 매반상 지금 아마디를 심전 차사랑게 아마제만요 제요 말했어요 김전디 샤고 지상 체디게 아마딩 아주 깨왕아마가 아마 말해로와 깨왕아마가 아마 아주 깨왕마 신예는 아마디 깨서 체디 아마디 깨사를 깨네 이거 저기 야 로하시 조사교 책으로와 아주 아미게 부기도 근로종 니슈 젤마도 바지기 말와 기시까지 망셔로 까지 다 줍게 깨용스기 인다데 니슈 젤에 깨와나 아마 깨네 로접교 줄가랑 아주 깨왕아마디 마시라데로 바다 미지에나 여데 안심제 둔로시나 여르와 제가 아주 마신예는 깨왕아마디 마신예는 체디가 아마디 끼는 로니 종은 니슈 좋아서라다 제가 개왕 아마게 소수 아마디 체디가 아마디 차요 말다와 지선 코니 가가 차들 안디나신 단창 개왕 아마게 아마디 아주 딩 개왕 아마 삼다베네 양 아주 개왕 딩 아마디 마신예는 아주 개왕 아마디 줍대요 로 종은 니슈 가서 로 하시 좋아서라다 제가 롱 아마게 아마디다 개왕 아마게 아마디나 딩 아주 개왕 아마니데 아마 가가 차들 진짜 닌도 집에는 샘전 자산랑 아마 제형하셔서 디네 집은 아마 마신 제형 말해. 그래서 저 디네 인상 난줄 개왕 아마라 타요 말해. 매완자 샘전 탐지랑 게 아마 제형화래서는 용화셔다 레서는 김전 디네 삼단 쪽으로 디네. 그래서 체디게 아마디데 이 개왕 아마디 체디게 아마레메도 아마 가가래서 디 아마디야 개왕 아마디레면 디 아마 가가래서 디 아마 가가래서 또 신의 제반에 진짜 아마들 심전 자산이라는 게 아마 제형화하셔다 자용 그래. 진짜 디네 인자 심전 탐지랑 게 아마 맞지만요. 제면도 선배게 두 삼다에도 심전다 제 많이 제용화 삼다에도 되는 거로.
So here we recognize what to make our mind more expansive for this meditation and to be effective. We recall these two aspects that have already been mentioned about the inconceivable variety of life forms and the uncountable number of lives that we all have had. And now we take the meditation further. This is really to make our mind a little bit more expansive here, not just thinking about this one life. And then we recognize that in this life, of course, we all have our mother. But in our previous life, let's say we were also humans, we certainly would have had a mother then. And our mother of this life is not likely to have been the mother of our previous life, not with so many beings. So we can thereby easily recognize that yes, this life I have a mother. But just X number of years ago, I called someone else mother. And therefore, X number of years before that, when I was 2 lifetimes ago, I would have called someone else mother. And this was certainly the case for my human rebirths, but perhaps I was born as a kangaroo at one point, and I would have had a mother. My lifespan then would have been much shorter, would have ended quite quickly, and comparatively quite quickly. I'd been reborn with a new mother, relating to a new sentient being as my mother. So this is then the third step that we bring into the meditation, recognizing that the mother of this life would not have been our mother of our previous life and the mother of our life previous to that. So thereby, we have a relationship with a being in this life as my mother. But I have a relationship with a completely different being from my life just previous to that. And let's say my life lifespan in my previous life was just say 20 or 25 human years, and then it ended. Just after that short period where I called or related to one being as a mother, now I would be relating to a completely different being as a mother. So here we're starting to in the meditation to gain greater certainty of this interconnected relationship we have with beings. And as we reflect on this more, we come to see that this relationship that we have had with all beings have had with each other. And this presents shows the complexity of interdependency of relationships between all sentient beings.
All those children simjan tamje rangi machi yong chaya de samda de dine sta de those children samda. Dine da dia machi yong da an char chik che bare be kan se bare la na. Ane char jang me ba che yo simjan ji yi so so ma che da ma dil che char me ba jang me ba che yo je sa char ma ngo che yo je. Je dine yan sa simjan ji yi rangi ama che ba de na char ba do me ba che yo ma do 심전 뒤에 아마 사람이 제어를 되는 제어 말해서야. 심전 뒤에 아마 차야다 맞아요. 되는 제어 말해서 되네요. 그래서 심전 지기랑 아마 참 마음보 장래 되버 제사요. 그래서 운두선 삼다야다. 지가서니 가서 나도 깨와 들려 Toma meba, Jangas meba is a Chesa, D. Sarge, Sedi Amadigi, and Yawangamada, Lon, Yawangamai, Kashi only amateur, and Kashi only amateur, Jerwada, Sedi Amadi in there. Chesa Dinicheva sometime, Chesa Simjan Jigi Rangi Machebatia, and Simjan Hamjarangi Machin or Shadare. Dinaji Simjan Jigi Rangi Machebatia, and Sargazijos and Sarjangle deba, DJ di Janga Tseomares, not Setsi Tuamar, Jan deba Geores, Dushin some Dankomia Regere.
We take the meditation then a step further, because now we've already come to have some certainty that we cannot point to any single being and saying, this one has never been my mother. Now we take that further and say, actually, how can I say that any particular being has been my mother only once? We cannot say that. So when we can come to say this too with certainty, this is starting to show that we are coming to have a greater understanding of beginningless lifetimes and the many, or the great multitude of life forms that we have taken. So those were the first two steps in the meditation. We added then previously the third step, that we would have had different mothers in our different lifetimes. And now, fourthly, we add, not only have we had different mothers in each of our different lifetimes, but actually, we would have probably, each of those mothers would have been our mothers more than once. And this way, we're making our mind ever more expansive to the intimate and interconnected relationships we have with all beings.
Dangli de Bejion, says some Dantadi, do Chindu, Dinage, some Dango Regere, Daddy, Simjan of Rangi Mache, Nua, Ducom said the Ducombo, the Yane, Yandu, Ranzuki, Yansi, Yansi, Sarmangura, Chinyamlin, some Dango Kurova.
For this meditation then, like all others, to have a transformative effect on us, we need to reflect in this way repeatedly over a sustained period. We do it once or twice, we will remember the steps of the meditation, but it's not going to transform our relationship with others. We need to do this reflection repeatedly over a sustained period, and in this way, we'll further weaken this feeling of being strangers to some, and further enhance our feeling of closeness to all.
The Simjan Tamje Rangi Maji Nyoa, de Len Mongo Jinyoa Nashi, Tangazo in a Simjan Tamji Maji Nyoa Janya Chatu, Ni Kurunga Amaji Nyoa Maras Shia, Chisa, Soso Rana in a Simjan Tamji Maji Nyoa Janya Reda, Simjan Tamja Sosuki Puji Nyoa Janya Chagore. Chisa, the near Diane, Len Danle deba, Len Jimmer, Len Danle deba Jenyo Janja, Ni Simjan Diga Amasaji Jebe, Dini Jeme Liomar, Chisa, then said Dile and Amachim Digi, and Yawangama, Dingama, Mongolia, Salmongoja, Jesus, now Soso sometime in there, Simjan Tamjik Amajenyo Janja, Simjan Tamjo Sosu Pu Chanyo Janja, China, Simjan Jemajenyo, dear Len Danle deba Jenyo Janja, Chihuahua that. Simjan Tamje Rangi Maji Nyoa, the Len Dale de Bajenyoa, Nashi, Sosui ne, Simjan Tamji Amajenyoa Shadari, Amatsam Omajenyoa Shada Chagoro.
Just to further expand on the point made in the previous segment, through doing this meditation repeatedly over a sustained period, which is now coming about, this meditation from impartiality, or based on impartiality, the meditation on impartiality, this feeling of closeness to others is going to be ever enhanced. And it will be enhanced through this meditation on the relationship of mother and child we have with others, in that as we do this meditation repeatedly over a sustained period, we will not only see that there is not a single being that we can point to with certainty and say, this being has never been my mother. Similarly, we will also be able to say, there is no being I can point to with certainty and say, I have not been their mother. And therefore we'll start to see that every being around us at one point has been our dear child. Every being we ever encounter or call to mind, they have been our kind mother. And here, our understanding of the complex, interconnected relationships we have with others deepens greatly. However, whilst one will probably think this way, the focus needs to be on the relationship of parent to us as the child. And the reason for this focus is because it's independent on this step, that the next step of the 6 courses will rise that much more readily and powerfully. So there's a clear, unmistaken recognition that all beings have been our mothers, and we have been their child. That in dependence on this realization, the next step in the meditation, their kindness, will come about much easier.
Gyatso nala nyadi ki ngal ya dinchimbo re sambay na dinchimbo ganis dinchimbo chagi re singa zu jara dinchimbo yimba de samlo kortu ya jara lingmwa da dangbo khare chago re sene da simjan de range mayimbo je nywa de temba inza ndi dangbo je la ana khare so dangbo dinchimbo su samdo range amade rala dinchimbo ro ba da di khare sene nga zu che de le ya nga zu ge sewu shu ha go de chago ro ba 제가 아미기 나아질려지 나아질려 가리 딩고라서네 충분히 야로 신안에 아미가 소슬야 전부지야다 제와제야다 아미칼라제야다 둘러제야다 가서 세우슈 젠투월 봐다 제가 니네 인자 두신 아미기 소슬야라 아다 아미가래 야고지 손사다 다 니네기 bên số sự kiện lộp cho thuyền trên đã phải mình nghe là lộp ra ya bắt đầu lộp cho chế đang ngắt 지게 더름라브라 턴투 소사야 데니기 나 아메기 다 충준의 갑리야 알리야 지 더름라 마다인 충준의 밤에 아미베 가 전부의 칼라제 두로제 송겹제 베소서 나 나그리에 선배 셈제제 알리야 롭죠 신경 말에 셈배 셈제제 데닝아 차그리에 선배 셈제 아메도 진행이 된다래 셈제 망부 제 아미 알리야 지게 소경제네 베 판도야 슈 판도 말이었어 안도 야 삼단에 다 아미기 nga zhōna la ami gi ma yin yan la ami zhōna la de da wu gus nya chen an de la ami be chi ami koron zemo zega zhoya da de ngi na lo bu lu ne gi sam che an de sung gyup dan da ya zemo ga zho ma ji ma ze ya da kala ga zho ma zho ma ze zem ya da an chi cha shu sab sab chi ne ami gi nya an du chi ne du che ba de ne za ama de be ra la ya 진심보 세디가 아마 삼동을 다다 세디 아마들한테 진심보 깨진심보 슈레샤 오늘 안에 다가 로 다종의 주빈 바도지 아미기 다 아미 수기네 로 종의 주빈 마제가나 다 개고식 아미 두치는 간줄야 다보 잡지 소교진 냐지 아마도 뱀마서 진심보레 세비게 아미기다 소설이야 판도시베 깨진심보 깨진시샤보디 양아주 미디게다 두삼 다지 대야지로다
Whilst I mentioned earlier that, yes, one can skip the first of the 6 steps of this meditation, recognizing all beings as having been our mothers, I would encourage you to do this meditation because without this step, it remains very difficult to relate closely to beings who are appear in this life to be very different from us. For example, when we see fish in an aquarium, it's difficult to relate to them with a feeling of closeness, because they seem so very different from us, so alien from us. So I'd encourage you then to do this first step of the meditation. And independence on this then, one comes to the second step, that of recognizing the kindness. So here, the kindness then, we've meditated on how all beings have been our mother and we've been their child. And now we reflect on the kindness they all have shown us when they've lived out that role. However, we primarily, though, will focus on the mother that we can recall, the mother of this life. The meaning is, her kindness we would extrapolate to others, but we primarily focus on the mother that we can recall, on the kindness that we can recall. Even though, as we go through the meditation, a lot of this we will have not been aware of or have forgotten, but nevertheless, at least the mother of this life we remember. So we can conceive, whilst we certainly can't recall, we can conceive that from the point of our conception, from the point when our mother was aware that we had been conceived, she would have taken great care of herself. She would have moved with caution, been very careful about what she ate, what she drank, and would have had our welfare, our protection at the forefront of her mind in all activities. And this was when we were the smallest, most vulnerable of life forms, completely dependent on whether she did take care or not. And similarly, when we were born, immediately she would have felt a strong and close bond to us, and would have held us close, wanting the very best for us. And in fact, throughout the period of the period of conception, before birth, she would have had aspirations for our healthy birth and for all to go well for us in our life. And having been born now, still we stayed at the forefront of all her hopes for us. She would have taken tremendous care of us when we were so vulnerable, that we didn't come to any harm, that we were kept warm, that we were kept clean, that we were in a safe environment, and that we were fed nutritious food. And as we started to grow, her responsibility took ever more effort to fulfill, in that needing to ensure we didn't come to harm became more difficult as we grew, ensuring that we didn't engage in harmful behavior, that we continued to follow her sound guidance. She took great care to ensure that we did. And as we aged further, she ensured that we had received a good education, both formal education, but certainly also from her, teaching us about what decisions are the right decisions to take, which decisions will lead to harmful, unwanted outcomes. So in this and so many ways, she cared for us from when we were completely vulnerable, and cared for us continuously, even as we started to grow, with our welfare always at the forefront of her attention.
Gyuba jikyame said the Simjan Rangi Pama Jenua some Dana Chichiro. Dene, they are Landran Badume by Jeshin, said Jesus Simjan Tamje, Ramajiva Landran Badume by Yane out of Mambuchi or research. That dene, that Simjan Tamje, the Tinye, Yangbi, Tinjin by Shi Imbe, Simjan Tamjeda, Rangi Tinjin Mopocom Nashi or it. She did that Rangi, that it is her.
Let's turn to our text now, just pointing out what we have already covered. So we are at the top of page 32, with the first full sentence in the second line, page 32. There is no one who has not repeatedly been your father and mother, and who has not shown you unimaginable kindness.
Ona rangi sedi ge ama de soso le jinchimbo imba samda 다디 삼다도 대신하도 심전의 저랑게 마진요 전바인자 삼다와자 다네 개왕아마기 니 아마디 세디 아말 마로 아마 가가르바 지선 개왕아마 아마디기 전 세디가 아마 나신 지는 알야 두신 지버지야 그진 아메기 두신 로나냐 당수기에 산데 되네게 아메기 지가 소경하자 잠제자도 전제 세디가 아마 나신 지는 하는 알을 그린 경험했어 두신은 디게 아개왕 아마디게 되네 경험했어 두신은 야야야 삼다지 두신은 심전 탐제랑 아마 제비 값수 소소야 아마 제 많이와 제 매와자 심전 탐제랑 아마 제비 값라 아니 소소야 제와치네 소소야네 잠경제 소소야 배 마스케진 판시부 또요래서 삼다의 책으로 와다
From these two lines, then, we see how our meditation relates to that, in that, reflecting here that on the kindness that our mother of this life has shown us, independence on the previous meditation that all beings have been our mothers, we remind ourselves that in our life previous to this, we had a mother. And she would have shown us kindness in the same way as the mother of this life. So assuming in our previous life we were human too, because this is easier for us to relate to, then in the same way as our mother of this life was, from the moment that she was aware of our conception, she was cautious over what she ate and drank and careful with her movement, so too was our mother in our previous life. And so too, from the moment that we were born in this life, that our mother held us close and raised us in the best way that she could, always doing what she believed to be best for us, caring for us in a way that is gentle and tender, so too would our mother in our previous life. Making this link then, from the mother of this life to the mother of our previous life, is sufficient then for us to extrapolate this to beginningless lifetimes, innumerable life forms, and inconceivable number of sentient beings who have cared for us in the same way.
시미네 소소의 심주 부초전 게도 하나 심마 아마디 소소의 심주의 주의 돈달이야 안델이야 자질려바나 부의 소교역이 돈달라 아메게 소뢰다세 파가야다 되는시 현다 송급지야 안디나신 안 저기 지오로시 자로 삼다베네 제 아메 공화 당 부게 부초전 아미파 제 칼라제 아메 니미년강 칼라세 제제제 아니 델레 다로 현다게 숨레나 아마게 숨급제 소소라는 거 소로에 다제 아니 지 숨급제야다 되는 지기도 아니 가실레 자로시네 부코로야 첨부 차제 코론 첨부자 파조 풀시 칼라제는 자야기 되니게 맞은 지기 제마도 봐도 아메소 교지기도 니나신 다당 지금 지게 갱구로라서 받아 되니게 삼다 두 통로되는 지금 자이나 아마디 부글려 소경지디 두 스타이드가 두 스타데 다 소소이네 개왕 아마 자기 자질이 개와 개도 자 아마디 디나신 진내 깔래집 소소야 깔래집지 아니 그진 장요래 선배 삼다야다 당한 저게 갱구로 부를 총쇼 통해서 아메도가 날디 디나 주이신 직제데 아메게 송교 쇼자 남시 장모 쇼이나 아마코랑 차데 부디 바 서부 쇼지냐다 송교제지다 당하 데니스키에와는 냐마 데니키 기리갑라 아마디게 데니스키딘 장요래 그진 좀 쇼저다 다오 망부두스는 깔래자요 두스 날이야 그딘 장요래스 두지는 아주 샘잼 부다 딘 통도 삼다베나 제가 데니 기위갑도 아마디게 데니 제와 치기도 와서 데니 송급 치기도 와 제가 마냐마 데니치도 차상에 데니 제여 가와 계외네 데니 아메게 데니 그딘 장요래스 샘베 두스는 삼다데 제가 샘잼 탐제랑라 예 진침보 쇼치레샤스다 다디 딩알에 그딘 침보레 디게딘 침보 말해서 제면도 샘잼 탐제랑에 아마제용 하셔다리 대야 렘망보 제용을 제가 샘잼 탐제랑래 진침보 대야 딘베 로망고 균능보 망보 야네 야도 그린 침부레샤 선비 두스진의 삼단에 semjan 담자랑에 딘침고 임바 삼다야디 다 대시 semjan제 마임바 삼단하게 삼단하디 두 삼단에도 안 semjan지랑게 딘침고 임바 삼단다들 베 레라제 삼다도 공도 두스진의 semjan지랑게 딘침고 임바다 삼다야디 저지고로
In the meditation, we started by looking at the kindness of the mother in this life, then extended it to the kindness of what we presume would have been a human rebirth in our previous life, and the kindness of the mother in that life. Because this is an easy link to make, because we can recall the relationship we have with our mother in this life, and we've observed a lot around us, like in other families, so we can easily expand that to our previous life. And thereafter, we expand it to all sentient beings. And here, when we expand it to all sentient beings, we shouldn't just say all sentient beings are the same and it's done. But look at the sentient beings that we observe and see these relationships and recognize that these beings there would have cared for us in the same way. So look at the animals in your home, for example. If you have pets, or maybe you have cats, if your cat has had kittens, then you would have seen how she cared for them. If you have seen feral cats, then you would have seen they would hunt for their kittens. They would find somewhere safe to give birth, somewhere away from other predators, and they would then hunt to make sure that they were fed and could give milk to their kittens. And when the kittens were a little older, would hunt to feed them, and then later train them how to care for themselves, how to be able to live their life to the fullest extent that a cat can. And if you don't have a cat at home, well, you have birds in your garden. So you would see how they care for their chicks. First they have to build a nest with some difficulty, then they have to gather whatever type of food that particular bird eats, and then they chew and regurgitate the food to their chicks, feeding them from their own mouth. And then when they are a little older, they need to show them how to fly, how to fend for themselves, or how to seek food, etc. So they also, with care, look after their young. With care, they do their best for the young, hoping that their young will also live out a full and prosperous life, a full and comfortable life, to the extent that birds can. And then also in what you've seen in nature documentaries and in the forests and fields around us, where we see, for example, kangaroos. And we know how kangaroos care for their joeys, keeping them in their pouches for long periods. Whenever the weather is cold or there's some danger, the joey naturally turns to their mother for care and for protection. So in this we observe around us. And taking this observation and applying it to this meditation, the preceding ones, we recognize that this is how sentient beings care for each other. This is how sentient beings have cared for me. In this life, I have been cared for in this way. In my life immediately previous to this, I was cared for in this way by a different sentient being. And in each and every life, I have been cared for in this way, as a human, as an animal, and so forth. So therefore, I have this close relationship of mother and child with others, and in the expression of this relationship, they have shown tremendous care for me. And there's no way that I can say with any certainty that this particular, so in the same way that I couldn't say before, that with any certainty that this being has not been my mother, or that this being has only been my mother once, I can also not say with any certainty that this being has not been very kind to me as a mother, that this being, whilst being my mother, wasn't a very kind mother. I cannot say this. And equally I cannot say that this being has been a kinder mother to me than that being. We cannot say that. There is no basis of certainty. So here we see how these meditations link to each other, starting with impartiality, recognizing all beings as having been our mothers, and now the reflection on their kindness. And this all serves to bring us closer to others, to further eradicate the sense of unfamiliarity towards others, and rather strengthen our feeling of closeness towards all, no matter our current relationship with them.
Andusine simjen hamje rangi tinchibo ima samtaidu rangi pama amadi tinchibo samta andine baadin chikyawa ngamadin si simjen hamje rangi tinchibo samtade rangi pama je nyongwi chane and tinchibo samtare and rangi pama majibe kabine sosulya tinchibo res bene sosugi punja da sosugi punja chewaru chin punja chitin 제수기 소소 총총 갑래 안에 소소 가 마신비 갈로 건주기 간줄이야 지 로버치야다 안지게 판도 먹고지여서 엔디 멤비게다 아주도 지소나 삼다비네 다 저기 베네 셈제로서는 베주지도 오마다 추라다 세상 안주 건주들레 건주기 전에 렌장서 사고 세상 안주 되네 사에 자다 동야라바디 건주기 깨진데 응구도서야다 안도 신 삼다데 당한 저기도 신에 사야 제 사야다 신도 사야 되니 두 신 내가 미 멍보지 미 신바 그런 저게 깔려 잡지 건조 깔려 잡아라 되네 만줄야디 베제다이라기도 제가 되니서 당한 저기 누 신에 안 당한 저기 개합 직나 사회네 소소 강한 체도 흉르야 안에 지게 강화도 강화시로지 우이지로지 사야다 되니 제도 안에 되니기 시행기 아니 슝기 무이제야다 아니 맹강주야다 되네장아주 강망보세디 대전 현기 지속이 되는게 두발에 되네 가서 강아세야 되기도야 제가 판도 침부 쉬우르샤 제가 되네게 아니 다 두섬당여도 아니 저기 다들 파만 마지베 내가 수인의 현심전 차상 라야 판도하다 그린데 진치보 유대바디 두섬당외나다 심제담제 네 진치보다 그진치보레샤스 비게 삼로디 디네게 삼다당 오레스우로
Following the same technique that we utilized in the meditations on impartiality and the recognition of all beings as being our mothers, in this meditation then on recollecting on the kindness of mothers, we follow the same technique of focusing on an individual and then expanding it out. So we have now reflected on the kindness of our mother, and now we expand that out to our father in this life and our siblings, our extended family, all who showed us kindness and care. We had, with our siblings, we had companions to play with. Our father cared for us, did his best for us, always wanting the best for us, and doing what he believed would lead to us having productive, happy lives. Similarly with other family members who contributed to us in this way. So this then is a fairly easy step to make in the meditation. And then, as before, we can also look in the animal world, where we take what we observe by seeing that they certainly are cared for in a unique way by their mothers, but also they're often in groups, and there is a system of care and support and tenderness within their group. And then thirdly, we take it further to those from whom we receive benefit. They may not have us as an individual as their object of care, but through their endeavors, our lives are made so much easier. And here we think of the interdependent relationship that we have with beings in terms of, for example, those who produce the food we eat, the clothing we wear, all the material goods that we have, and also those in political leadership and the many government employees who through their endeavors we live in a safe and comfortable country where we can grow and develop as individuals. And again, whilst these society as a whole, beings as a whole, don't necessarily have us as their object of care. Nevertheless, their endeavors, all the hardships they undergo in their work life, we experience benefit from that. So therefore, in this way, we have a relationship of kindness from them, in that we receive benefit from their endeavors. So what we're doing here, again, like the preceding meditations, is step by step. We expand the circle of our focus, ever strengthening our feeling of closeness and intimacy with more and more beings. Not starting with a mass of sentient beings, but starting with a small group and progressively making it larger.
rāngyā jīn chīmbu yīmbā, gādīn chīmbu yīmbā samdāng thādi dū samdāng kūrēs. Dā dī samdāng bā nā kārī khyabā yōrē lam nā simjian thamchī rāngyā jīn chīmbu yīmbā samdāng yō lam sāng rāng zūgī simjian liyā, an pāla yā, an pāndō chī hē kī jīnlēn chō yā kī samdā dī lē lā wā kī lē tū kōrā wā, chī sā dī nē yīnzā. Dī nā shīn tā pē nā simjian thamchī rāngyā jīn chīmbā nā shīn rāngā simjian tamchī jīn chīmbā rēwēs nē jīn chīmbā chāi kōrō bā pēnē sōsō simjian tamchī kē mā chē mā nyōngwā yī mē rē mā jē bī kī dēhāng lē māngbō chē nyōngwā rē yī nē mā jē bī kā sōsō kī tā pū dī liyā ānā chī kī ngā rā chō tsē wā chī nē kyōngwā yā tā jī bā chā tē rō bā yī nē yāng tā ngā rā chō liyā rāngī simjian tamchī kē mā chē nyōngwā dī gōmbā yī nē gā rā pāntō yō rē sē nē dī nī shā rā pāntō sī kā yō mā rē tā kārāsān dī rāñi simjian mā jē nyōngwā kī dēmbī gōmbā yī nā simjian tamjian rāñi kīrīn chīmbu yī samdā tāng tūgu rī bēsī dī tāng tūgu mā rē dē, pēng mā rē. Mā pā mā yā rāng simjian tamjian rīn chīmbu rē dē, dā dī gōm gō mā rē. Tā gōm gō yā dā kārā simjian tamjian rāñi rīn chīmbu yī mā gōm gō rē. Simjian tamjian rāñi rīn chīmbu yī mā gōmbā yī nā gā rā yung gō rē sī nā sōsō yā yāqbō chē bā yī nā pā lā yāqbō chī gā rē sī bē samlō kē gō rō wā. Chī sā pā lā yāqbō chī gī sī bē samlō kē gī duandā lā Shen simjian jayang la yakbu jiang jiang yakbu jigi du jie song san bie sam la jiang guo di jizang pa la yakbu jigi san bie sam la jie ge duan da la di re da jizang pa jin len jur ge san bie sam la jie ge duan da la simjian tam jiang la jin qian bu gong guo di gyum zhen di re simjian tam jiang la jin qian bu gong ba yin jin qian be jin qian bu re san ba yin ne ga re o da pa la yakbu jigi san bie sam la di le tu guo ba di duan da la simjian tam jin qian bu gong guo di ro.
That then is how to do the meditation, reflecting on the kindness that firstly our mothers have shown us, and then the kindness that so many others have shown us just in this life, and then further the great benefits that we receive from the endeavors of others. So in Tibetan this is the same word, the kindness that others show us, but maybe here we can think about the great benefit that we receive from others. So here, the thought may well arise to you, and it would be a valid thought, that in the same way that I have been the child of all beings, they have all been my mother and shown me the care of that, all beings have been my father, my siblings and other relatives, and have helped me in other ways, so too have I been the mother of all beings, so too have I been the father to all beings, so too do my endeavors in this world bring benefit to others and have since beginningless lifetimes. And whilst this is a correct point, it doesn't serve much purpose to generate it, to meditate on this particular point, on the kindness that we have shown to others. It is valid, we certainly have done this. But in terms of the purpose of our meditation, which is the achievement of the greater goal of bodhicitta, the cultivation within our continuum of the goal of bodhicitta, of becoming a bodhisattva, recollecting and meditating on the kindness that we have shown others doesn't serve that purpose. It doesn't aid the development of bodhicitta. Hence, we focus here on the kindness of our mothers and expand that to the kindness of others, and as well as then the benefits that we continue to receive from all others. Because this is an indispensable step to lead to the natural generation of the next step in the meditation, which is the wish to repay the kindness that others show us. because it's independence on the recollection of the kindness others show us that there's a natural wish to repay that kindness. If we reflect on the kindness that we have shown to others, that does not lead to the wish to show them further kindness. Rather, the focus should be on the kindness they show us, because of it leading to the next step, which is to repay their kindness.
마디 진치보금 되네 심전 저랑기 마제용어 짱짱인자 심전 저랑을 진치보임바 다 마디에 렌 장네 양네 양도 제바인자 아니 렌 장리 대바랑리야 진치보 아니 마제비네 가수디네 마제비네 가수라랑라 그진치보임바 또 섬다제 단금 심전 저랑기 말 진치보금 바세디 차고래 다디 곰세외 제라 다 진렌 야 아니 가수 진소 시파 뉴스 Semjelia and Pampa to be in Sembiki, Jinso Comia, the Chagoda, Jinso Comia. Since I didn't that the Antibareta, Dambo Rangi, Madi Jinchimoza, that round Madi Sedigi, Madi Soso Jinchimoza, that's it, Sosugi, that Jigawa Chick, Benelagado, that Jonaka Chick, Nuba Udicabla, Pamalia, Kangaton, Robert Chiki, and Sembiki, something on the Yunguru, that Pamajo, Chada, Jigak, Naza, that in Pamalia, Robert Chiki, and Sembiki, something on the Yunguru, which is a dinner. Sedigi Madi Rala, Jinchimbore, Rani Chunju Kablia, Dadaba, Sosolo John Cheche, Tuzi Yawacha, I'm Pamikatin, Tizan Pamikatin, Danga, Yawacha, the Pamaling Alia, in Palia, Pamalet, and the Yawachi, Skanga Pamalia, Robert Chiggins, and some diet Chagrua. Dinner sometime, Chisankiawama Pamadi, Semjen, Ni Pamachin, Jason Pama, Simjan Chazang, Pamachin, Simjan Hamjerale, Jinchimbo, Rally Yawacha, Palia Yawachi, and Beta Simjan Tam Jelling, and getting Jansu Jilin Jurgins and Big Palia Yawachi, and some died child.
I encourage you then to engage in the meditations we've set out last week and this week, repeatedly over a sustained period. Firstly, impartiality, which we looked at in detail last week, independence on this. Meditate with the 4 steps of the meditation on seeing how all beings have been our mother. And independence on that one readily comes to the next step, recalling the kindness. We start, as has been said, the mother of this life, expanded to the mother in the immediately preceding life, and recognize it would have been the case for all sentient beings. And here, in all life forms, by all sentient beings. And here then we can recall to mind what we observe in the animal kingdom, for example. So here and then there's recollection of mothers and their kindness. We then expand to others who've shown us kindness, such as our fathers and our relatives, as well as those whose activities continue to benefit us. So we keep developing this meditation, and in doing so, it results in a spontaneous feeling arising within us that whomever we meet or call to mind or observe, there's a feeling of closeness, a feeling of intimacy with them. And this is a key development in this meditation. And then independence on these meditations, on impartiality, that all beings have been our mothers, and the kindness they've shown us, and the benefit we receive from them. Naturally, the wish to repay that kindness arises. And through doing the meditation in the ways that has been mentioned, the wish to repay that kindness that we do feel right now, for example, towards the parents of this life. So the parents of this life right now, in these dangerous times of the pandemic, we know that we either need to avoid them completely to make sure they stay safe, or if we are, depending where we are living and what the rules are, if we are meeting them, we need to be sure that we we don't act in a way that we may meet the coronavirus and pass it on. So we care for them in this way. But if we have been engaging in these meditations, this natural feeling of care towards others and wish to repay their kindness will have arisen towards all. Not just towards the parents of this life, but we all have recognized that all beings have shown us similar kindness. And this natural wish to repay the kindness that we already feel towards those of this life whom we recognize have shown us kindness, through these meditations, we will start to feel towards all. With this feeling of closeness towards others, we'll want to repay the kindness that we recognize they have shown us, even though we cannot call it to mind now, we know with certainty that they have shown us.
Those simji tamjelya, and it didn't part in Lenjogi, Wachi, Sempigi, some not tied, or comedire. That the commuter the Gumzendo some tied, the Jinchemoima some tied, the Gumzen some tied road. Chisa Carasene, Penang, Pama Chemaya Jidan, Michigi, Anzulia, Chicken, or Calado, which is Rochevine, Nazipa, and the color. Color just or something, the Awores and be Jinji Tension and Lamsa and the Palaya and the Jinga in the Bur Yahotea, Sosugi Yahochi in Sebigeta, Yahochi Jetan, Kishina Yahoshia, and Yaji, Sosugi, Tony, Robachi Tuena, Jeg, somebody Ligua. Chisanganjile, Sosulia, Sosugi, Samnonalia, same time you ding Ali Yahochi to pay Yahore, something, Sosulia, Gahuji. Yahore Sambana, Sosugi dele Midelia, and Gavi Sabaligua, Gawadigura, the Yahore Samban. Chisa, Dinizam, getting Jane or getting some tide, or then I'll get in Chimpe, Yahore some Ligua. Leo did the Yahore some Leo, Pacho de la Ganga Chena, or Dicanga selling his rope chickens and be somebody delete Horva. The Pacho de Yahore Masambana, Yahore Masambana, and Pacho la Ganga. I didn't call Roche, Minister, some legal. I said, Pachulia, Colia, Pember Dugi, and be some Lela, Pacho de Yahures and Biggie, Sosalia Yahures and be some Leven, Delia Pember Dugi to Bache, Penard Mini, Misumi Vena, Misumi Vena, Michigla, Gawa, the Chigla Magawa Jovena, Chigtil Bay Yahures and be some time Yabushi Bache, Chigdilia and some time Yabura Mevena. And then I can't do cheaper Tibene, Nigala, and the car Sayad would Chinakar, cheaper Teddy. Now to let us hear when the robot Sulgis and Sosoicas, same than yet, the Jiggy Mother, Chibu Digmarwa. Is that Garson, Chibu Jigo, Chick till Jigo Marson, Chick till the same than ye or Chick like a go, what is that? Ditigo, Chick till like a go, but same than you didn't Jigo Marwa. Is that Tini and Gabuch had the same time you Gabuch Haven, Delia, and Pember to do some of the legal. She's the same time you would try the Carson, Social Yabuchi, the Kongalia getting Chimong, a pan judo or something, some of the Yawot down by same time you will legal. The nigger some men the getting Robo Pamaro in Nada, Shanda Michi, Social Robo Kaze, Robo Chevene, Ting Ali Robo Yabuchi, do something, some of the Mebana, and same time you will leave about it. It's not the Mazuki, the nigger some tangoedi, Jin Chimbu Imbu Kimse, and Yana do sometimes the same time you will leg, same time you will less on Delia Pember Pale, Rock Chiggins and some leg, the letter or Shuli go over Dinesa, Dio to Andala, and the Pama Samta, Dinesa, and send the Delia Rock Chiggins and some of the Jango did it, and Rock Chiggins and some of the Jango did it.
For this next step in the overall meditation to cultivate bodhicitta, that of repaying the kindness that others have shown us, for it to go well, one needs to have successfully cultivated the preceding steps, because it's through cultivating the preceding steps that one feels an intimacy, a closeness with all others. The problem with where we are right now is that we certainly do feel a closeness towards others, but this is very partial. It is dependent on the kindness they are showing us. It's not necessarily dependent on the kindness that was shown to us earlier in this life. That's forgotten. It's dependent on the kindness we are receiving right now. And the fault of where we are with this, the fault of this attitude is that, let's say we are with two people and they both are experiencing the same problem, but one is a dear friend, we feel a sense of closeness towards them. The other one we're indifferent towards, we don't particularly like. Naturally within us, we'll be drawn towards helping our friend. This is the person we feel a sense of tenderness towards and we want to help ease their pain. The other, we may have a negative attitude towards them, but we may just be indifferent to them. So we'll feel ourselves drawn to the one and ignore the other. This is a serious impediment to the achievement of the goal of bodhicitta. So therefore, for the meditation on repaying the kindness to be successful, one has to have cultivated the preceding steps. These are the reasonings that are required for this meditation to go well. Because when we feel a sense of closeness towards others, all others, a sense of an intimate connection and relationship with all others, not a feeling of closeness to some and distance from others. When we have this recognition that all others have shown us tremendous kindness explicitly in the multitude of lifetimes, as well as we've received great benefit from them throughout this and previous lifetimes too. With this feeling of emotional intimacy with them, we'll readily want to aid them. We'll readily want to be of benefit towards them. And here then, when we reach out to others to repay the kindness that they have shown us, whether we can recall it or not, whether in this life or past lives, whether it was an act of great benefit or just something small, because of this feeling of intimacy with them, our reaching out to them will be reaching out to benefit them, to repay their kindness, will be done with a motivation that is warm and joyful. It will not be a cold obligation of something I should do, but rather with joy and with warmth, we'll strive to repay the kindness that others have shown us.
지나데 되네게 인자 소술이야 야고 제한들 팔에 야고 지고고리 선배 삼다데 그린 침부래야 디나시 심전 차사라야 진침부 인자 팔에 딜렌 조고고리스 소수기 때 소수기 누버 여바다 소수고 고급 유디 딜렌 조고고리스 조고래 삼노 나래야 아니 지기 무엇을 판도 마토베네 삼나래야 당이 지 로지인 선배게 딜렌 조긴 선배 소술래 약보 제와서 팔래 약보 지인 선배 삼로 등한서 장고고 차고로 봐. 지상한 저기다 삼로 장고디 가르람나 당한 저기 기시시에디네 당보 삼로 돈 루고로 봐. 근데 파셔들라 미들레 기시 동넘bio 약보 되는지 기시 약보 시에발라 가는 바 동넘bio 가서 수빈넘bio 약보 차야다. 가는 바 기시 닝지고 시에라 당보 삼로 주고로 거로 봐. 삼로드 코는 파셔들라 가위게 삼비게지 삼로지 코용도 아니 류게 넘교나 약보돼야다 가기 기시베네 인지오셔야지 신의 그 삼로디 돈 리고로 봐. 나 삼로나야 파셔 미들야 마가와다 코로나위게 삼로시 여바이나 디기 아니 가르쳐서 파셔 기시리네 되 식수보다 안동은 넘교네 주고돼야다 니네와도 삼로 돈 리고로 디나징 알아서 삼나야 팔 약고 지긴 삼비게 삼로지 장바이나 니기 견지는 알아서기다 소수기 로봇 제투야다 소수기 수비 뉴버 매바이네야 제요 말다 이네 다 소수기 뉴버 여바다 판도지 고급 여디 로봇 제투고로 와지 제가 삼로지 여바이다 다 삼로지 판바 지긴 삼비 삼로지 매바이나 아니 소수기 고급 여바다 뉴버 여바네 아니 제투고 말아 되네 장한 저기 다 삼로 장고에 되다 팔에 판바 지긴 삼비 이제 판배 제고비 김자 가라는 말이야 그든지 말 한약 부치서 지상 소소 약 부치봐서 팔에 약 부치고 그래 새벽에 나 삼다제 삼다의 김전가 제마 삼다베니 소소를 딘치보다 소소 끓인치 뭐까지 삼다 마 삼다베니 알아주기 팔이야 로고치거든 근데는 저고도 선배 삼로디 아니 슈체 게야다 레라요다 디용고와 제자디니자 나보디니게 삼로다 제바제제 도스치네 아니 진짜보다 깨진치보 이바디게 삼로 야보 망보 юм체 망보도 안 삼다 아니 근데 삼다래다 대 소설에 진짜보다 팔레진에 저기 인세배 삼다데 다 자고로와다
I really want to emphasize the importance of training repeatedly over a sustained period in all of these steps in the meditation. It really is crucial to bring about a transformation, and this transformation is something that we all can achieve within ourselves. So just like right now, if your parents call you and request your help, you will readily help them because of all they've done for you in this life. Similarly, others who you are close to now, who show you kindness and care, when they reach out to you, you will be a good friend to them. We know, therefore, that this is how we are as beings towards each other. And it's independence on successful training in these preceding steps that we will relate to all others in a similar manner. In the same way that we relate to those that we are close to now, we will be able to relate to all others and do so with sincerity. Because right now, if we feel that as a good Buddhist I need to respond to the needs of others and help when asked to do so, we will do so but begrudgingly. And we will know this, and others will pick up on this too. So whilst this is where we are and it's good to help, it's not where we need to be, it's not where we desire to be, where we long to be. So therefore, it's crucial that we train in all the preceding steps of impartiality, recognizing beings as being our mothers, and their kindness. Because the way that we interact with others is so dependent on our mental state, our motivation, our way of thinking about them. We may help someone when called upon, but if we don't want to do that, our facial expression will show this. Our way of talking to them will reveal this, and the coarseness of our movement will also reveal this. But if we have developed a feeling of closeness towards them, that we see them as someone special and dear, the way we speak to them will be tender, our expression will be gentle, and our movement will be movement showing care. So therefore, we need to cultivate a sincere attitude, because this will be perceptible to the being that we are helping, the person that we are helping. And still, as limited people, we can only help them in accordance with our current capacity, and that is fine. But if we've trained well in these meditations, the way that we'll help them will be sincere, and this will be perceptible to the person we're helping, and this will ease their burden of difficulty greatly, because they know they are not being a burden. They are calling on us and not being a burden to us. They will feel no guilt or apprehension, and they will pick up on our joy in being able to aid this being in distress. They will pick up on our joy in being able to help a being who has shown us so much kindness, whether in this or past lives. So therefore I encourage you to train well in all these steps in the meditation.
그진 침보에 돼. 알이야 강아야 먹고 돼요래서. 들어봐다 가브렐nga Nyadiwaki consuena sayora, they get Jadiwaki the consuena sayora, Bulki the consul sayora, Chesa, the nigger Kangateata, and Chikanga Mambote or Resibigi. Then yours in it. Sometimes Simje digging Alakanga Teo Marasan, Dinisha Geomara, Chasakanga Tevachanga. Simjen digging as Sayomara and Sheomara, Sanyo Jana Chagua, Yele, Yamanga the Bull, Nyadirikiane, and Kashik on the China Sayor. Then I have the Bejuda, Chada, and the chick, the nigger rada Lulu kid, you answer good bait, you go on a quiet, and then answer Suya, shots on Jay, the Mangoje, Nyoyo, Vada. Then there's something like Kanga Mambote, or Simjan Tamjera, Jin Chemo, getting Chemboade. Says I need then there's something when I was Simjan Tamjera, Kanga Jay, didn't chair or something, sometime when Digi, Gary Ungoras and House Sim Yomo, but horror yadi that Paduja, some of the Shuchimo. Chesa, D sometime Digi, Mansule, Nigur, Pingu matter. That then also cut something was Mahaso, some of Duja, the Yomo, Beriti Mahapan, somebody Yawaki, Jango or water. Mahaso Kangate, the Garson Yomo, but the Kangati Gore. Chesa, Yomo, but the Pakayala, somebody Yabusu or some of the Yabu, some wood show. Chesa Sango Zegi. Tablam di Gomgore, Madam Nambuki, Tablam ding some Tagioma, the Nigi Yoba in a Shahajore. And did some Tagioma. Did some Taba in the house of the Kangate, some of the Guinea, the Nekanga Tartumar. Dandala, Simjan Tamjeralia, Jinchimbure, some Tangodi, Karisin, Rani Yomo, but Chasan says Rani Digi Dandala did so Chagorwada. Chesan Rani was Yomo Biriti by Paya Dandal. The names are Simjan Tamjera, Jinchimbo Jampane, Delia Pember to get some somebody key to it. Simjan Tamjera, Ganga take at the bed, never get some Tabana, Delia never get some key mother, Delia Pember to be some delay tomorrow. The names are Didn't you see right? Some general Jinchibo never hear didn't Chibare shed in some tango minus and big some no sigua. The Chibare Ingorti in a Tanga to get some Jahadi, now to give you no passage, Digil Drogo or says that Dinza and somebody Yahuchai Donala, Navy, Gunny some Matavache, Yending Ritis, Pemberit some tango, Jimzendi Chagua. Pemberit that you. Getting Chimba some Tavan, socially as some Sambudikiale, Pingore. Never get some Tavan, socially as some Sambukiale, Nugore, some long Ambedikigore. The Inzada, then it Nagio Marasabiti, Jim Sendire.
Just in our closing minutes together, I want to add another point to what we were looking at earlier. When we were in the meditations, we were gaining ever greater understanding of the deep and interwoven relationships we have with others. When you're doing these meditations, it's very likely not only will you be understanding the great kindness as well as benefit that we have received from all beings, but you will also recognize that in exactly the same way that we do have these close and intimate and warm relationships with all beings, so too have we had harmful relationships with all beings. Those same beings who in some lives have shown us tremendous care and kindness and gentleness, in other lives have killed us, have perhaps eaten our flesh, perhaps killed us with great joy or caused us tremendous pain. This is also true. This will equally have happened, will also have happened. With this we can recognize this is the case. But of course, the purpose of the Buddha Dharma is to develop our wisdom, so we use our wisdom here. And we remind ourselves of the purpose of this meditation is for all sentient beings to achieve happiness, state freed of suffering and pain. And all sentient beings includes myself. And if I now am starting to think about the harm that beings have done to me since beginningless times and how they would have killed me and eaten me in the life that I was a fish and killed me when I was a bird and eaten me as well and killed me with joy when I was an insect, this just makes my afflictions arise. I am going to be suffering from this meditation. This is not the purpose of meditation. Meditation is to lead to happiness for all beings. And this particular meditation is to be a step in the achievement of bodhicitta. So therefore, if my afflictions are arising, this sentient being is suffering. This is not a skillful meditation. Moreover, when this meditation concludes and I stand up from the cushion or my chair with ever stronger afflictions, I'm going to bring more harm into this world. So this is not a skillful way to meditate as well. Whilst the recognition is factual, this is not a skillful way to meditate. Again, the goal of the meditation is to develop bodhicitta. And therefore we can recognize this, but we don't dwell on it. Rather, what we need to focus on is, we can recognize this, and we can use it to strengthen our understanding of the deeply interwoven relationships that the deeply interwoven relationships that all sentient beings have. And we have these deeply and complex relationships. But the purpose of this meditation is to become bodhisattvas and eventually Buddhas for others. And therefore we focus just on certain aspects of the interwoven relationships we have with others, the kindness they've shown towards us, the responsibility we therefore have towards others, and develop this in a way that the repayment of this, or the fulfillment of this responsibility, is something that we are joyful about. It's not an obligation, but rather this is something we are joyful about. So therefore we need to be skillful in our meditations.
Denegi kumje samda yane yandu du sum kora jepche ninga zo samda dadi dadi marshe gomba deni dindi gomba ane dinso gomba se siguro da dini samda ere ninga zo diringi shede dadi jemana dadi jamba da ni je ko shora da.
To conclude then, to building on what we looked at last week, the meditation of impartiality, we've now been reflecting in this meditation, or going through the steps in this class, on the steps of the meditation, recognizing that all beings have been our mothers, the kindness they've shown us, giving rise then to the wish to repay that kindness. So I've hopefully set out the steps of the meditation quite clearly. So I encourage you to engage in this meditation repeatedly over a sustained period. And the way to do it is in each meditation to go through all these steps, gaining familiarity with all of them. The steps for impartiality, recognizing beings as being our mothers, their kindness, and thereby the wish to repay it. And then one can repeat it, and repeat these the various steps of these 4 meditations. One can repeat them all together, one after the other, repeatedly in the same meditation, and then do so daily. And in this way, transformation will come. So in our next class then, we'll move to the next 2 steps of the meditation, the generation of love and compassion. Thank you.